news for you. Yes, I do. I'm like your angel of love, girl. I've come to see you through. So when you cry, let me wipe your tears. When you're scared, I wanna be there to calm your fears. When you're in need, baby, ring my phone. I'll run right over and we'll make love all night long.
What it is, what it is.
Greetings.
How's everybody, man? Man,
Awesome.
it looked like we short. Robert, I don't even think I spoke to you in the green room, brother. I'm sorry.
That's okay. You good?
Yeah, everybody good?
Doing great.
We got the
always good when Tommy's here.
Yeah, we got
you're so nice, Mel.
We got the newest best-selling author Tommy Talley on deck. Did they say we had an intro for Tommy or not? I guess not, since he already in here.
No.
That must mean we don't have one for him. So, you know how it is, Tommy. When you become family, we stop treating you special. So don't,
No, it's all good.
Don't take it personally. The worse we treat you is the more we care about you.
I feel so welcomed.
Yeah. You should, especially since I just kind of made that up. How y'all feeling, man?
Life is good, man.
Life is good, Robert.
Yeah.
Dropped the 250 we talked about in the green room.
Yeah. I'm feeling it. All is well.
Hey man, we don't do it very often, but for anybody that may be watching for the first time, or maybe Tommy brought some of his faithful people who maybe hadn't seen the show before. Peace, Vincent. Vincent Price. You know Vincent Price, Robert?
Yeah.
He don't get it, Mel. Vincent Price. Okay, never mind. Hey man, let's go around real quick, man, and tell people who you are, what you do, where they can find you. Real quick. We've gotten so comfortable we don't do it very much. So Big Mel, why don't we start with you? Tell the possible first time viewers who you are and where they can find you and what you do and all that good stuff.
Mel Roberson, actor, author, professional development specialist, owner of several different companies. I can be found at melroberson.com. That'll have all of my links. It even has some free resources for people, a goal setting seminar, some links to videos of my acting and a variety of other things.
Nice. Robert Hazard.
Robert Hazard.
The Hazard Group.
The Hazard Group. And so I can be found on Instagram at I am Robert Hazard Jr., as well as Facebook, Twitter, and if you want to find me at the business piece, you can do that as well, and we can have a consultation. But that is it. I've got a couple books that I've written in as well that are featured, and some people have actually written some reviews recently. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they enjoyed our books.
That's nice, man. They can't find you at the strip club, can they, Robert?
I don't think so. I don't think that's going to happen.
Can't find you.
You never know.
What'd you say, Tommy?
You never know.
This is true. I will save our illustrious guest for last. I'm Sean Mason, professional photographer here in Chicago. You can find me under Evan Marcus Imagery. Professional singer, vocalist. I am now an author thanks to these guys. Some of these guys on the screen in a project that I did with them. Lessons for the Little Boy that was curated by Jamie Gill, and I host this show and I hang out with these guys on Thursday nights at 9. Tommy, you got some really cool new stuff going on, which is one of the reasons I saved you for last. But tell everybody about yourself and where they can find you and how they can support you.
Absolutely. My name is Tommy Talley. I'm here born here in Chicago. Author, father, husband. I'm a mental health advocate. I founded a mental health nonprofit in my free time. I like to promote and normalize mental health. And yeah, that's pretty much what I do. You can find me at IamTommyTalks.com. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Yeah.
That's dope, man. Glad to have you. What is this, your third time on, maybe?
Second.
Second. Feels like you're third, man. But always good to see you, man, and chop it up with you, man.
Yeah, good to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I first, man, want to talk a little bit about, man, and give our condolences to the families, man, of the people in Mexico that were over there. They got kidnapped by the cartel, man, and subsequently were I think it was four of them altogether. Two of them were killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. You, people were suspecting what was behind it. Supposedly, it was a case of mistaken identity. I learned earlier today that allegedly the cartel actually gave up the five guys. Yeah, somebody's phone. I can hear. Get your volume on your phone. That they gave up the five guys that were responsible for kidnapping them because I guess they acted of their own will. They weren't directed by whoever the higher ups in the cartel were. They kind of acted, in a rogue manner, thinking they were doing what was right and did not. And so the last news report I heard was that they turned those five guys over to the authorities, and so I guess they'll be held accountable for what they did, but just didn't want to not mention that because I thought it was horribly tragic for you to go over there. You're trying to, I think they say they were going over there to get some surgeries, some under the table surgeries, but you don't expect something like that to happen. So, from the network and the show, our condolences go out to those guys. Yesterday, I think it was it yesterday, International Women's Day?
Yeah. Yesterday.
Raj, this is some of those stats I was talking about. I just wanted to, since it's alleged that we give the ladies such a hard time on the show, I did want to, come out. Okay. I shouted that like he could hear me.
I was like, what is he in, is he in the back
Right,
room or something?
Right. I sent it to your inbox, but all it really said was women are amazing and sisters are killing it. That's really what it said. It had some stats about the life of Black-owned businesses by females and some amazing things that not only are Black women the most educated demographic, they're disproportionately more educated. Just little things like that I thought were really cool tidbits for us to share and celebrate all women, especially the sisters. And yeah, that was all I wanted to do at the outset, man. Saw a couple of things, man, that I wanted to talk with you about. I watched a video of a guy that said he was on like a first date with a lady, and they were, I don't know if it was the first date, it was early on, maybe their first time getting together, and he's at her place, and things are heating up, and hey June, things are heating up, and her phone starts ringing incessantly, and so she's ignoring it. He's asking her, uh, is it okay? Is everything okay? Your phone's blowing up. She's like, yeah, we're good. Eventually, she picks up the phone and he can hear who's on the line, and it's evidently, she said it's her ex. And long story short, too late, he's at the door. She's claiming that she's by herself. He's like, okay, if you're by yourself, then let me in. Now, unbeknownst to him, the guy that was in there was I don't know what his job was, but he was packing. He had some heat on him, whether it was illegal or legal. And so he basically saw himself out of that situation, made sure, he said they were teardrop guys, so they had, they were those kind of guys. And so he said he, kind of worked his way out of it or whatever. But I wanted to ask you guys, Tommy, I know this is so far beyond you as a married man, and Mel is newly married. His memory is probably foggy. But have you guys ever, man, found yourself in a situation where, like they say, you may be single, but is anybody else that think you're not single? If you found yourself in a situation where maybe somebody wasn't letting go, and you maybe had to navigate something, whether it was a full-fledged beat down or getting yourself out of that situation. Robert, talk to me. You ever been in a situation, man, where somebody wasn't really honest with you about what their status was, and it got goofy?
Yeah, absolutely. I Obviously, that was before I was, last married. But I've been in those situations, man, where, you know, the phone call, all of that sort of stuff keeps going, and but I didn't have to jump out any window or anything like that. So that was a good thing.
Yeah, I don't know if your knees and ankles are built for that move.
But this is a while ago, man. This isn't anything today, because
Yeah.
my ankles and knees and everything would be hurting.
Yeah.
But I think it begs to differ, or begs to have a conversation about being honest, which I think is what you're alluding to.
Yeah.
If we're trying to do something, and you said that, Tyrone was gone, but yet Tyrone's at the door, that means that you and Tyrone are still kind of kicking it or talking and things like that. And today that puts people in danger. That this man in the story that we were talking about was packing, but what about those that aren't? And unfortunately, domestic violence is at an all-time high now. So it could be one of those situations. So thankfully, I'm here to talk about it.
Yeah. I've had situations where, whatever their real status was, or whether they were confused about it or unwilling to embrace it, but they felt like maybe they were up to something, and they were definitely going to stay on that phone, ringing that phone, and that's nerve-wracking, man. It can make you nervous, because then you start to wonder, like in that situation, he knew where she was, but
Yeah.
in the situation I was in, I was like, did he follow her here? Does he know where she is? Like, could it escalate to, something like that, because he's tracking her? If he's blowing her up like that, he might be tracking her, even more intensely than I understand. Mel, what about you, brother? In your, in your pre-husband days?
Fam.
Yeah, I knew you're going.
I don't get down like that. I mean, I
Well, you
guess
don't
it
really
takes a
have any
lot.
control over it, I guess. So luckily, you've
Yeah,
not
but
dated anybody that was, not
fortunately, I'm a
dishonest.
good judge of character, and I haven't run into a situation where that's happened. So now I've had exes show up on my doorstep unexpectedly, but that, and it was abundantly clear that they were an ex. So it wasn't.
Oh, you mean they did show up at an inopportune time?
Yeah, uninvited, unannounced, like not calling first.
Yeah.
Just pop up, ring the bell, like, yo, what's up? Like, nah,
But I
fam,
guess what I'm saying is the perception of that is different if you're at home watching TV and it's just you. But if you're at home and you have company and that happens, the perception is different, because then they start to ask, okay, are you telling me the truth? You know what I'm saying?
Nah,
they can
I'm
make
good.
that person. You are, yeah.
And it's funny that you say that, because I had to think about this. I did have one of those situations prior to marriage, and the woman was talking to the guy, and not knowing that the guy had followed her to my house.
Right.
And I still haven't forgotten about that, but that wasn't a good feeling, because she's got this guy outside of, he knows where I live at.
Yeah.
Now. And so that's just an uncomfortable, situation. And it begs to, it's about trust too.
Yeah, I don't think, and Tommy, don't lose whatever you're thinking, because I'm coming for you. But I don't think that people that are doing that are sensitive about the danger they're putting the other person in. Because if this person is silly enough to be on this level of tracking you, then you really don't know, what he might be capable of doing. And so
he or she don't make it man exclusive.
No.
Yeah,
The example was of a man. So no. Oh, trust me, there's enough. I mean, women are free to make songs about busting the windows out your car. So we know.
I've had women do it too.
That's so crazy, because if a man made that song,
100%,
it would be looked at in a completely different light.
Oh,
yeah,
absolutely.
Completely different light.
And I think the
he may not sing it as good as she did, though.
That's
But
true.
I mean, but regardless, though, the standard of what women are allowed to get away with that isn't
Yeah.
right. You know,
Mhm.
like that song is about property damage.
Mhm.
Hey, and I'm not condoning cheating in any form, shape, or
Yeah,
fashion. Like
Yeah.
whatever
yeah.
he did, that shouldn't have happened. But that doesn't give you a right to do it. So if a woman cheated and a man was like, "I bust the windows out your car," it was like, "Oh, he's a psychopath. Oh,
Yeah.
he's crazy." You know, the same with throwing drinks in their face. A woman can throw a drink in a man's face in a heartbeat and be justified because she was angry, or he said something that was out of pocket.
Yeah.
And man does that, it's not seen the same, and they're not the same rules when it comes to the indignities that are allowed, um, when it comes to stuff like that, man. It's
And
just
And,
crazy.
and
what's
good
even
liquor too. You throwing away good liquor.
what's
Yeah, I don't
even
think a man would waste it. So.
right. Well, let me hit you with this ice residue, Tommy. Um, what else is a bit fascinating about it, Mill, is that um, ladies benefit from the culture of support even in those situations. Like, you're not gonna find a bunch of girlfriends going, "Oh, girl, you shouldn't have done that." Oh, you know what I'm saying? They're gonna look to justify her actions. It's a weird communal support that women benefit from, um, more so than men. I think the difference with men is that you find men that won't say anything, like they maybe won't challenge their friends
Mm.
when it comes to their indiscretions or them acting, inappropriately. They may swallow it and not challenge him when
Yeah,
they should or
yeah.
could. But
I'm not
women,
that friend.
yeah. You've mentioned many times, but women will bend over backwards to find some right in in the wrong that you did, because it's their sisterhood.
Yes, their
Yeah.
tribe. Women do
Yeah,
that. They do it well. I
yeah,
don't
The
know
the
that we do it is good.
yeah.
I saw a post. I may have sent it to you, Sean, a couple of weeks ago, where this guy was saying how a woman can break up with a friend, with a guy, and they'll be like, "Oh, girl, you could do better," and all of this other stuff. When in all actuality, her friends won't say, "Well, no, he was a good guy. You were just an idiot." You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
Hmm.
they're
Yeah.
just not going to say that. It's disguised with, "Yeah, you could do better," or "Better luck next time," or "You'll catch another one." And so they would rather lie to their friends and be comfortable than
Mhm.
have those conversations. And I'm not
Hmm.
saying that guys don't do it, that guys are not on the same boat. But
Yeah.
I have a friend who was going through something, and he said some stuff jokingly about it in socials, and I was like, "Hey, bro, take that. Nah, you don't. This is a sensitive time for you right now. You don't get to joke about it." And he was like, "Man, I didn't mean it like that. This is my way of dealing with it." And I was like, "Yeah, well,
Mhm.
you need a therapist. You don't need to take to social media with it
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
deal with it that way."
Yeah. It's a blaring imbalance, man. Tommy, prior to your days of wedded bliss, man, you didn't have any situations where somebody was untrue about what their status was, and it made something a little goofy for you at all.
No, no, I've never been in that situation actually. My wife and I met freshman year of high school, and we've been together since. So I've
Mm,
never
all right.
really interacted with that. I don't know how I would handle it if it did happen.
Yeah,
To be honest, I
yeah,
think, like Robert said, it's scary. You never know people these days. They track you. It's scary. Things can turn really ugly really quick, and people's mental health is just all over the place. Uh, you know,
yeah, yeah.
people get snapped just for nothing. You
But
know.
kudos to you, man, because I've always said, it's just my opinion. I've always said that those loves we find early, high school, college,
Yeah.
they typically don't pan out to be the loves of our lives. That doesn't mean that they weren't significant, or that they weren't the catalyst for the way you love or the way you move
Yeah.
forward or whatever. But I remember watching a young couple go through some things like that, and I remember thinking, they were being given some advice that I didn't. I agree with the advice. I agree with the advice. I didn't think it was framed in a good way verbally, And I remember telling that person, what this person is telling you is that if you look around most of the older couples that the person they were with when they was 18 or 19 is typically not who they end up spending the rest of their lives with. It feels like that, but it doesn't go that way. And so kudos to you and your bride, man, for holding on to each other, and seeing the value in each other, man. To me, that's a super dope story.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it hasn't been easy, right? Especially like you said, young love, it's hard. You don't know each other. You're learning, you're growing, she's growing, and it's all about finding that mutual connection and just continuing to grow, and that's what it is. And we've had our ups, our downs, we've had our breakups, our separations, but in the end of the day, we've always found ourselves back, together, and we have 3 kids together. And we're still not perfect. We're still trying to grow.
Sure.
It's a lot of work.
Sure.
So
yeah, but I believe, man, if you separate and you guys determine that your life is better with each other, than without each other, it doesn't, no matter how tough those times may be, at the end of the day, she doesn't want a life without you in it. And you don't want a life without her in it, and so at the end of the day, that's what you guys ride with and massage and navigate and tweak and work on. I was having a conversation on social media this week with some friends that the show knows, and we were talking about the idea of love, and love for me is a verb. It's an action word, and their portrayal of the word for me seemed like it was saying that love was this perfect thing, and it was on us to screw it up. And I didn't personally believe that. I thought love is perfect, but love is not perfect, but we have a chance of executing it in a perfect way if possible, because people can love you and still do something wrong to you, or do something bad to you, or lie to you. It's the tragedy of love that it can come with dysfunction, and that becomes the human battle and frailty, is that you can feel the love, but you have to manage the dysfunction you're experiencing it with, and then you have to make a choice. Is the love you're getting worth the dysfunction that it comes with? And I think for a lot of us, it's easier to just say, hey, if you love me, then everything will be perfect. And I don't think that's true. I think you have to love somebody, and then you have to be intentional about the way you execute it, and you can execute it either well or poorly.
100%. Yeah. Great way to put it.
Yeah. Appreciate it. Hey, man. I read this thing, and I thought it would be good to run by you guys. I read a story where a lady and a guy, they had been married, they split, they have a child. The mom is still single. The dad has moved on and married. The former wife has custody of the child, but the dad married a rich woman. And so the former wife, mother of the child, is now pressing the dad for more money. She gets about $900 a month from him, court-ordered money from him. But because his wife is so well off, she feels like she should get more money. And his position is, we have separate accounts. That's her money. That's not my money. You have access to my money, but that's her money, yada, yada, yada. Now, of course, my first thinking is, if you think you're justified, then take them to court. I don't know. I've never been in that situation before, so I don't know what the rules and regulations about that are. That would be the way I would approach it if she felt justified in that request. But outside of the law, I wanted to know what you guys thought. Do you think that if the ex-husband gets a come up, in a sense, by marrying a woman that's well off, should that impact what his financial commitment is to his ex-wife and the child? Robert, what do you think? Were you listening, Robert? Okay, all right. You look like I woke you up. So
nope. I've been in that situation, and that's even from a child support perspective.
Yeah.
As well. And I think that's kind of where you're going to in terms of financial support.
Yeah, for sure.
It's always it's a touchy,
That's a little creepy, Mel.
Wilson wants to talk about this because he was.
That's a touchy one, but just because he's come up does not impact, where he was at the time that they divorced or separated or something like that. But I will say this, Sean, and it varies based off of the states.
Sure.
The custodial parent can go back and petition the courts later. Yeah, renegotiate later, but and see where that gets them. But technically, no, you can't. You're not entitled to any of the money that I've made or I've gotten, whether it be a lottery ticket or anything like that.
This question may be just a question that's not worth asking, but do you think it's fair? That she would want that?
Answer me this.
Riddle me this, Batman.
Riddle me this, Batman. This is Wilson talking now.
You need to use Wilson the way they use in the White House, so he can say all the stuff that Mel and his company wouldn't want associated with them.
Wilson was raised by one parent on a deserted island. Okay, so he never. His mom was never around to help out.
Right.
It was just
Daddy looked like Tom Hanks, but he ain't never seen him.
So here's the deal, right? If a woman, let's just flip the tables for a moment. Let's just say the woman had custody and she married a well-off man, would that change the father's obligations? So, she married a billionaire who has, the ability and financial means to do whatever.
He still got to get that 900 every month. He still got to get that.
Does that change the father's financial obligations? And the answer is no.
Right.
And whether it's mother, father, because there are situations where I know some of my boys that have gotten custody of their kids, and it was just a different ball game. I guess the question really becomes, well, not even a question from a legal standpoint. I just don't think it's right. But what is her end game, right? And is the father doing other things for the child, or is it just take this 900, I get them every other weekend? What is the relationship? I think people are more so worried about the financial part of it than how do they cultivate a relationship with the children, which is important. Not that finances aren't important, because it takes money to raise a child.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It definitely takes money to raise a child, and doing it in a two-parent home is not always the easiest situation, and it becomes a sacrifice. But at the end of the day, who should the woman be penalized? Because if that was the case, I would just be, until the child turned 18 or 21, I would just be like, all right, well, we together, but we're not going to do this official thing because it doesn't make sense. It's not a good business decision.
Yeah.
If they're allowed.
Well, legally, access. I want to make sure I can keep my money separate from you.
Yeah.
Because of that. Tommy, when you see that, what do you see? What do you think?
Well, I think she's greedy, most definitely. Really? I feel like that's just a greed issue, and she's probably hurt. There has to be, she's jealous, right? She might be jealous he came up, right, so to speak, and she wants to make him hurt, but she doesn't realize that she's not making him hurt. She's making the new wife hurt. Maybe that's also her goal. But I don't think she's entitled to any of it at all. I think it's a little ridiculous.
Yeah, Wanda said.
Doesn't surprise me though.
Raj, can you put Wanda's comment back up if you can? She basically said, Wanda says she thinks it's fair.
She says she doesn't think
it's fair. But if they have more, that should create a better life for the child. But I think that should be kind of automatic. You go as well as your folks go. So if dad's life is better because the new wife makes more money, that should in some way impact the child. There could be some moments where they don't have this for that semester of school, or maybe she wants to take swimming this semester, and that's not really in the budget. Those are things where that reality can kind of fill in. But to Mel's point, I don't think it's fair for her to think that she can insist upon that, especially when there's something that's legally been done already.
Here's the other side of it. So
Yeah.
if there's more stability in a two-parent home, and financially it would be better for the child.
Right,
why
move
not
the
get
child.
some custody?
Right.
Oh my God!
Hey, look, and that's when you find out what it's really about.
That's World War I happening right there, because women don't. Well, let me just say this: people don't want to do that because there's some financial obligations and things like that people are tied to the money. I think that when I look back on my my child support situation that with my kids and my kid's mother, I think that what I've learned is that while I had the state taking the money out of my check, I made sure that I paid more for clothes and various other things that doesn't go through the state, because it still costs a lot to take care of kids today, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just me as a parent, and I would encourage probably anyone, if they have the means, to be able to do that.
So I'm asking you this question, Robert, solely out of ignorance, because I have no experience in this area. So you were adding a bit more for essentials, as it were, that may come up. If there was ever a time that you had to prove that you were doing that, would you have been able to? And is that something that the court would have given you some kind of credit for?
No.
It depends.
It
depends on the judge, bro. Some judges be like, well, that was a gift.
That was a gift. Yeah. Exactly. You did that out of the kindness of your heart.
Yeah. So you can't get no credit for it.
Yeah, you don't get any, and so you mentioned in terms of credit, my kids are grown now, but back in the day, I used to have the luxury of paying, my kid's mom out of, with a check, and it didn't go through the child support system. It was just, hey, I give her a check and things like that. And so those checks didn't get reported or recorded on her end. So when she took me to court, I said I
looked like you hadn't done anything.
Yeah, I hadn't done anything. So I was excited about, because back then when you got a garnishment, or this is probably just a mental thing for me, but a garnishment against your check, everybody in payroll knows about the garnishments and things like that. So you don't want that, to happen. But I welcomed the garnishment later because they kind of cleaned it up and it wasn't viewed the same way.
Even though those payments weren't documented, when you found yourself in that situation, did the court honor what you had been doing or no?
No, they didn't.
So did you have to pay double then?
I didn't. I didn't, because it started from the time that when she took me to court. It started from that time when they made the judgment for it to really start coming out of my checking account. I mean, out of my bank account.
Yeah, and there have been some situations where the woman is like, well, no, Your Honor, he's been doing what he's supposed to do all this time. It's not necessary for you to do the back whatever. Mm-hmm. If she's honorable,
right.
Or he, because again, there are some cases where men are that way. But I want to bring up something real quick before we move on. Mm-hmm. There's a young lady, and I don't know if it was a TED Talk or what conference it was at, but she did the statistics on people who were incarcerated, who were either raised by women or raised by men or had a father in the home or something like that. And the statistical difference of a man involved in the parenting and the incarceration rate, the correlation was unbelievable.
Yeah, I wrote it down as possibly to talk about today. The numbers match children, the two parented children or single father children. The numbers are virtually identical, which is which says to, and one reason I didn't broach it is because it's so easy to hear that I'm discounting the presence of the mom when that's not what I'm saying. But what it does speak to is the reality that the father's presence is particularly significant. And Robert and I were talking about a bit of a video I saw earlier today where the guy basically, uh, Robert, how did he frame it? I'm trying to remember how because you and I talked about how it related to
Mhm.
your own thing. But a woman raising a man is going to raise the man
Oh yeah.
out of the absence of what she felt in a man,
But
right? And that could be through a distorted lens. So when they talk about women being able to raise men, I think young boys need to see a man. That's just what I believe. Doesn't have to be a man that's in the household, doesn't have to be a man that's related to them, but I think there needs to be a consistent man that they're exposed to help them become a man. But the question becomes, if you have, and let's just throw in that she's scorned or a bit bitter or whatever, and she's raising this young boy, she's going to raise him through the lens of everything that she felt was missing for her, whether she was justified in her thought or not.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
so it becomes a very tricky thing. And like on a lighthearted note, you can look at it like this. This was the example I gave Robert. I said, if the end all be all, she thinks, giving her roses on her birthday was this amazing thing, then she's gonna push that boy to make sure you always give her roses. Now he might not have anything else being poured into him. And he may walk away thinking, I'm killing it, because my mama told me, look, all I got to do is make sure I buy these roses on her birthday and, we good. So I think we have to really respect the team that the two can be. It breaks my heart when I see couples split. And I know a lot of people that have drama over raising the children. And even though I never had children of my own, that's the one thing that I'm always so thankful for, that I don't have some turbulent relationship, with a woman that we had children together and then we didn't make it as a couple, because I've seen so many, and women control that dynamic. I hate to say it. I've not seen a woman in that situation not getting what she wanted. Men they drive that for the most part, and men have to deal with whatever framework she puts it in. But that gives me, I don't know if I was done with that question, but we're running out of time, and it's the perfect segue for something that Robert and I have been bouncing around for about 3 weeks, and I think it's a perfect time to talk about it with two bright, stellar, and newer husbands on the show. Is the risk too great for men when it comes to marriage? Does what you gain to lose, and understand this, I mean, like, Mel, your children are older, we're not looking at smaller children where you're going to end up in court about this or that, but still you have property, you have other things um that are valuable that you could lose in that dynamic should the court decide or whatever. um do you think that the risk is too great for men when it comes to marriage? Tommy, I'm gonna put you on the spot, Big Daddy. Um, Tell me what you think, and I hope she at the mall or something spending all your money. So if you say something, you don't end up sleeping on the couch. I got a couch for you, but
No, I think she's at work right now, so I'm pretty safe. But I think there's definitely a big risk for men, but I feel like it's equal risk. In the end of the day, you both lose something. But I definitely feel like in the courts, the woman does definitely get more, you know, more alimony or more of your property. It depends on how they fight. Uh, you just
but
kind
you
of have
think
to
but
hope.
you think the risk is pretty even.
Yeah, I think it's a 50-50 chance. Either it's going to go south or it's going to go well, and hopefully you kind of come up on that agreement where you take your stuff, I take my stuff. But I feel like there are a lot of women out there who would try to take him for every penny that he has. But,
Well, before I hear from Robert, I will put my neck on the chopping block and say I think that that's so much a part of the culture of the failed marriage that you almost have to expect it. I mean, how many stories have we heard of someone out of their bitterness
Yeah.
deciding, you know what, I'm getting ready to drag him and take everything
Yeah.
that he has because I can. And a lot of times everything might not be embedded in truth in terms of what she's standing on as a reason to take that position. So I mean, it's
Yeah.
an age old condition that we've seen. I remember talking to a woman at a party, and she basically told me, "Oh yeah, no, I'm living off of my cheating husband's money. He
Yeah.
shouldn't have cheated, and he was rich, and I took as much of his money as I can, and I don't have to work."
Well, I guess
I'm not saying
considering
that's
on the
good or bad.
situation,
I'm just saying that's the reality of how you can weaponize that position,
yeah.
if you so choose to,
But is
But
it
I
is
think if he
I
did
don't
cheat,
yeah, I don't
go
think
ahead.
it's weaponizing in that situation
No,
because
he
he
deserves it.
violated the contract and those are the consequences.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's not
But there are,
weaponizing it, bro. Like
yeah.
like if they said rich or poor, better or worse, vow only you, this ain't a marriage where it's open and you can do your thing and I can do my thing. These are the terms and conditions of our agreement.
Yep.
You violate that agreement, you don't get to walk away unscathed.
Yeah.
Can a cheating woman have all of her things taken? I don't know that happens
She
very much.
should.
It can, right? So
Yeah,
She
that's
she
should.
should.
but you don't really hear that, does it?
Whether you hear it or not, it's not weaponized if he violated the contract, regardless of if it happens on the other side or not. We're
Okay,
talking
so
about a particular
so
situation.
so let's not be triggered by the word weaponized. What we're talking about is whether or not the risk and benefit is equal. And so what you're
That's
telling
not
me
what you
is,
asked. That's not
but
what
but
you asked. Or that's not
but
what you
but
stated in that
but the
particular
broader
situation.
question is, when it goes south, who stands to lose more? And no matter what the circumstances are, even in infidelity, I don't know. And I'm seasoned. I've been around quite a bit. I got friends. I got a buddy going through that now with a wife that was unfaithful.
Hmm.
She's getting a lot of the court costs paid. She has to pay some court costs. But for the most part, even in that split, the financial hit is one that's much bigger for him than it is for her. And allegedly she was the one that violated the covenant. So
Do they have
again,
children?
yeah,
She's getting the children.
yeah. Well,
That's
they
why.
still do a joint thing. Well, the truth is the child is a grandchild. So I don't know how that it may play out a bit different. Um,
Doesn't work.
yeah. So, but again, it takes me back to the original question. And Robert, did you answer that question? Do you
No, yeah. Help me, brother. Well, the
the
original,
benefit? The
the who,
benefit. Does the
who,
risk outweigh the benefit? For men, is there a greater risk for men than a benefit for man when it comes to getting married? And I think that's why a lot of men have, especially men that have something, have started to enforce the prenup thing, which used to be so frowned upon. But I
yeah,
think here's another reality that people don't really think about, man. You oftentimes don't know who you're dealing with in a breakup.
no,
Yeah.
You see a
people
very
change.
different part of the person that you married and
Yeah,
took all these vows with and did all of this. People become very, very different, man, when
Very true.
things
when money is
go
involved.
south, yeah, and when money's at stake and you see the opportunity to create an easier life for yourself without having to work for it.
You have the friends too whispering in the ear, take him for
Exactly.
everything.
Friends,
You know,
family,
men ain't shit. All
yeah,
that.
all of that stuff. And unfortunately, Tommy, when you've got the friends and family in your ear to tell you, "Girl, go on and take him for everything he's got," you're going to find yourself lonely, and they're not
Yeah.
going to be around.
Of course.
And so that's the unfortunate part. But let me answer this question for you, Sean. If the benefits of marriage outweigh, I think, the risks, I think is what you were saying.
Mm-hmm.
But at this age, when we're over 40, or 50, and we've accomplished some things. We've got, 401s, pensions, and things like that. We stand to lose quite a bit. So we have to really be careful. Well, when we talk about the business side of it, the vows and things like that. So even in a cheating situation, unfortunately for your friend, we can. I don't know about you brothers, but possibly we can forgive and move on. Maybe that might even make the relationship better. But if you can't do that, typically it has been the case where the man stands to lose quite a bit. I mean, I was sleeping on the couch for a while after my divorce, but that's another story. It's probably in my book somewhere. But in homeless for a minute or so, and that was mainly because I made an improper choice, and I own my choice in that, and it's not on her. I'm not saying that she was the bad guy. I'm just saying that the way I did it. So so we stand to lose.
Yeah,
I feel like
Is the answer.
Go ahead, Tom.
I feel like a couple years ago, I would say that men definitely did have the risk. I feel like nowadays, women they're really shining the light on women and their flaws and how, it's kind of like it's trying to make it to where the man doesn't always lose. I feel like we're kind of starting to push it a little bit more, where it's like, no, you should be giving more. You messed up, and it's like it's not always the man who is cheating or doing this. So I feel like it's shifting a little bit.
Yeah, I think back to the era of time when like my parents married, and you look at those old couples, and it seemed like, man, they didn't care what it took. They stayed together. If they ended up not sleeping in the same bed, they walking past each other in the house like two ships in the night, but they stayed together, and they never canceled the contract of marriage that they had signed. And nowadays it seems like uh people sometimes are getting married with an exit plan already in place, especially if um you know what course of action might be available to you. And let's be clear, we're talking about the cheating element, but that doesn't have to be in play at all. I mean, all the woman has to say is I'm ready to go, and she is still subject to be able to do all the things that we're talking about, whether there has been a violation or not. So I just find it pretty interesting, man. We got a few more minutes. We got about 9-10 minutes left. And ladies that are watching, I hope you'll chime in and maybe put some of your thoughts in the chat. But I want to know what you guys feel about the breadwinner dynamic. And have you been exposed to women that can be the breadwinner uh, in a traditional or considered traditional relationship, and it not impact the traditional power dynamic, if you want to acknowledge that? Like, do you find that do you find that women that are the breadwinners then feel like they wear the pants in the relationship, and so your decision making ability is not as impactful, since you're not contributing financially on the same level that they are? And ladies, I would love to hear if you feel like you can be the breadwinner in a marriage or a serious relationship, but still champion that man in a traditional way, like he is the man, and yada yada yada. Mel, what do you think about the breadwinner dynamic?
For a while, my children's mom made more than me, and I mean, she's a beast in business and a dynamic person when it comes to that. And she didn't treat me any less for making less than her. She still valued my opinion. She still, was like, all right, well, what are we doing? Or she still trusted me to lead. So I think it's a case by case scenario. Do I think that that's normally the case? I don't know. In my circle, it is. I've known guys in my circle who have boss wives. Matter of fact, man, I was walking through the airport. We were on our way to Birmingham, I believe, and I met a gentleman and his wife and kids, beautiful family. And me and the guy are talking as we're walking. And I was like, "What do you do?" He's like, "Man, bro, I stay home with the kids. My wife, has a phenomenal job, great income." He's like, I'm home with the babies. I got a couple of things that I do here and there, but she's the chief." And she was totally respectful of him. She wasn't, you could tell the dynamics of their relationship. So I think it's possible with the right woman, who has her. And here's the other thing too, though. I will say this: like, women have to trust the man that they're with enough to be led by them. So in some situations, it's not just the power dynamic of the money. It's more of the thing of, are you capable of leading this household, in spite of what the financial situation is? Because sometimes those guys are in that position for a reason, because they don't know what they're doing. And in that case, a woman should say, "All right, I don't trust you to lead me," and eventually they'll get out of that relationship.
Amen, Mel.
Robert, what do you think?
I'm triggered by that, but well, I'm not really triggered by it, but I think that I have experienced pretty much, kind of what Mel said. If I was a stay-at-home person, I work from home rather. I wasn't stay-at-home, but I work from home because my situation allowed me to kind of travel with my wife and do things and take care of the family. We didn't have kids together, but then when that six-figure salary diminishes, unfortunately there's some emasculation that does happen, unfortunately. But so it doesn't always work out. But you have to know who you're dealing with, and that's where the vows, we've talked about, come into play, where we can say, "Hey, for richer, for poor, better, for worse, to death do us part," and not take that out of the wedding vows.
Yeah, but I mean, you got to mean them when you say them.
You brother, I believe that I really believe people mean what they say when they say them.
On that day?
Yeah, on that day. They're not behind their back saying,
with their fingers crossed. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that they mean it, but we all change and situations change. It's like the flower, situation with giving our woman flowers, and she's determined that she really didn't like flowers. She would rather have, a card, and we didn't ask the right questions to know, or we didn't allow her room to change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense.
Tommy, what are your thoughts on the breadwinner?
So I mean, I've been on both ends where I've been the breadwinner, and then there's been times where my wife, makes more than I do. At the moment, my wife makes more than I do, but it's also about going, like Robert said, for better or for worse. You were still gonna grind it out. I feel like there are certain women who might try to switch the narrative, like, I'm the breadwinner, I'm wearing the pants. But in a good, healthy relationship, I think it doesn't really make a difference. Like I said, my wife makes more money than I do now, but it doesn't necessarily mean that she still trusts me. She does, and I still help. I clean. I work, right? But we do equal work. We clean together. We cook together. So
yeah,
I would love to be a stay-at-home dad, though.
I've had my own experience with it, and I was in a relationship where their salary basically ballooned about 3 times over the course of a weekend. And I dealt with all of that in terms of the girlfriends in the ear and and all of that, and it ultimately led to the end of the relationship, and that's one of the reasons that I speak so passionately about their network of support. Because I've had conversations recently, and this was some time ago. I've had some conversations recently that were never had about that time period in that relationship, and in those conversations, I learned how unwavering their support is, even when you're given reasons holes and flaws in the way that it played out, they hold on to that support. So I think that sometimes that may be a really bad thing for women, because sometimes you need somebody to tell you the truth. You don't need somebody to be in your amen corner as much as they need to tell you, hey, rethink this, make sure this is what you want to do. Here are the pros, here are the cons. We're running out of time, and Tommy, I want you to give us the information on your book, but I did want to share a statistic with you guys that was linked to the last two conversations that we had. When it comes to marriage, 70 to 80% of the divorces are initiated by women. The number increases among college educated women.
Yeah.
90%.
Yeah.
So there are a whole lot of ways you can spend that, look at it. Maybe more educated women know the benefit of egress better. There are a whole lot of different ways that you can look at it, but I find that to be an interesting statistic that men aren't typically the ones looking to end the marriage. It's women, and the more educated the woman, the higher the numbers are. Tommy, hey man, thank you so much for hanging out with us, and give us some information, man, in these last 4 minutes or so that we have on your book, and where we can find it and what it's about and all that good stuff.
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me. It's been great. It's always good having conversations with you guys. So March 29th, I will be releasing my first book, I Will Overcome, a story of love, hope, and forgiveness. The book is about my childhood, and it just talks about some of the trauma that I faced as a child, and the main goal is overcoming that trauma. As a parent and a husband, I realized that a lot of my childhood trauma that was unresolved was still following me as a husband and as a father, right? So the things that I was taught, I was passing it to my children, anger issues, just impatience, right? And one day I really let my daughter have it. She was trying to show me something, and I said, "What do you want? What do you want?" And she looked at me with these big eyes, and she was just crying, and I was just like, "Man, like I saw myself in her." And in that moment, I realized that I needed to change. I had a lot of issues that needed to be resolved, and I started seeking therapy. This was right before the pandemic, and I just realized that as I was talking to my therapist, I was like, I'm really not alone in this situation. A lot of my story can really resonate with a lot of people. Growing up in alcoholic parents, drug parents, child abuse, verbal abuse. It's really unfortunately really common in a lot of families. Growing up with these cycles of generational dysfunction, and I just wanted to share my story because I hope that somebody can resonate with it and really just move on, or like let go and realize that no matter what kind of trauma you had as a child, you're still able to have a good life. You're still able to be a good parent, a good husband. So I'm just really excited. It was really hard to write the story. It brought up a lot of trauma and a lot of emotions. And even now, when I'm like reading it, it still gets me. It's a very powerful book. It shares a lot of deep, stories from my family that I've never really told, a lot of people before. And my ultimate goal is I want to take it into high schools all over the country and just talk to them, because we really have to focus on our youth with this mental health initiative. I was looking at the CDC website, and it said that 34.8 million children between the age of 0 and 17 years old, which is nearly half of American children, have been affected by trauma at one point in their life. And that's a lot. That's a lot of trauma. And in this day and age, we're not teaching our kids how to really move forward from that trauma, or how to talk about it, and giving them the resources like that. So, I really want to take that story and talk to the youth about it and say, hey, like, this is what my childhood was looking like. It might be like your childhood. It's okay. You can still grow from it. It's not too late. So start the work, really start the work now, and you'll be much better off without it. So you'll be much better later on, with that practice. So, yeah, I'm really excited about it. People can find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. on the 29th, of course.
Mhm.
So anybody
Put that
interested?
title up
Yeah,
again for us, Raj. Amazon, Barnes and Noble.
absolutely. I have a subscription list. If people want to, leave their email, I'll be sending out email updates as we get closer. You can visit my website, www.IamTommyTalks.com. And yeah, I
Hey, man,
hope that it really resonates with a lot of people.
we're proud of you, man.
Thank you.
We applaud you for being willing to be so transparent, man, for the
Yeah,
benefit of other people. So thank
yeah.
you for that, for being willing to share your story with other people.
Thank you.
And thanks for hanging out with us, man. As always,
Of
you're always
course.
a great guy to talk to and chop it up with. I'll never forget my first time meeting you. You knew me before I knew you, and that's always humbling. Because I'm like, have we met? But to me that speaks to somebody being humble. They don't,
Thank you.
they're totally okay with saying, hey, I've seen you, I know you, I've checked you out before.
And didn't run.
Yeah.
I didn't have my ski mask on at the time.
Yeah. Before we exit, I do want to give a shout out to 220 Publishing.
I was gonna do that. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for being a
I was
great
over there
publishing
asking,
company.
like, was that a 220 publishing project? Yeah.
Yeah, shout out to 220 and their team. For really believing me. Glenn, Eva, Stephanie really have been phenomenal, and I recommend them to anybody who wants to publish a book. They're just fantastic team, and I'm so grateful to have them on my side.
Hey, man,
So,
for sure. Big ups to 220. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us. I think this was a great show, great dialogue. Appreciate all you guys on the screen. Till next Thursday, it's been Live from the Cave. Don't leave, Tommy. It's been Live from the Cave.
Join us, Indie TV, where you will see the talk shows, movies, drama, action, and comedy. Be the first and see it first. Sign up now for free at Indie TV.